Welcome to Revlog, where I want to take a moment and have a special celebration today.
Let's do it.
This is our first time filming since Brian has a new grandbaby.
Congratulations,
I know,
grandfather.
This is such a big deal.
It really is.
Yeah, it is. Faith Ann, we love you. Stephen, we love you. Got the new baby. What's the baby's name?
John.
John, it's a good name.
There you go. Good biblical name.
Yes.
So what's your hope for the grandchild to call you? What are you expecting?
Grandfather.
It's a very, very lofty aspiration.
Yeah.
At what point, when the child graduates from high school or the first words out of its mouth?
It may be a while before that little one can say that many syllables.
Who knows?
I don't.
Of the house and line of Brian, who knows?
No one in my family has been quite as enthusiastic about the appellation grandfather as have I. But
Grandfather's a wonderful term. I don't know
your call is very important to us.
Well, we're very excited.
Yeah,
for
I
you,
was so
really.
excited. I mean, that's a wonderful blessing
I
to
appreciate that.
have
I
a new
really do.
grandbaby. Have you held him?
I have quite a bit. Yes.
Is he walking yet?
We're working on
Okay.
it.
I mean, we're a week old at this point.
Yeah.
Or I mean, the baby's a week old.
A week and a day.
A week and a day.
That's great.
What joy! What joy!
He's very sweet, actually.
Good. Well, we're not in the Gospel of John. We're going to come to the Gospel of Mark.
That's good. We call that in the business a segue.
The segue. Mark 4. and we got a couple of sections here, starting in verse 21. Aaron, help us get started. As you read today, what was your reaction to this text?
Yeah, so it's that idea of you measure others with what you measure yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That idea that it resonated with me. The idea that we often have a different standard for ourselves than we do
Yes.
other people, and I think this is not a new concept. And for whatever reason, when we're looking at other people, maybe we see our own failings in them,
Right.
and so we measure them more critically. And it's that plank in your eye kind of analogy that we don't always see. And so it's just a good idea to be consistent. That
Right.
Jesus is reminding us that we need to turn the mirror on ourselves, and we need to look at others, and to take it one step further. If we were to measure ourselves as God could, then that would be a
Right.
tremendous weight on our shoulders. And yet God looks at us and says, I love you anyway. I've died for you anyway, despite. And so just the idea of being fair and consistent and
Yeah, and I think you're right. It seems like our heart defaults to critical.
Yeah.
Where God teaches us to be graceful
Mm-hmm.
and just learning His compassion's a wonderful thing.
I see that particularly even in my parenting, when I see myself
Yeah.
and my kids, I kind of come down hard because, and on reflection, I'm like, they were you. And then see that finger pointing back at you.
Yeah, I know. Brian, what was your initial reaction here?
Jesus in parables always fascinates me, and everything in parables, as the scripture says here,
It says his public teaching was parables.
it was, and it often seems to elicit the response, a number of responses, and they all are sort of like, well, wait, what? That's it? Or I think, of course I know the way the world works. It's so simple on the surface that people that becomes a stumbling block, I think, for people too. We don't understand this. When people were saying, for instance, his disciples would say, we don't understand, the parable of the seed and the sower, for instance. That's not in view here, but
Right.
we don't understand that.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't saying they don't understand what he was saying
Right.
about seed and how it behaves. So they got that, but they, often they say, well, okay, a light, as in the parables here, a light, a candle lit and it shines. We know that.
So what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what? What Jesus was saying is, when it comes to, I think, one of the things is, when it comes to our own movement in the universe, we expect that we can operate contrary to how everything else operates. And we want to construct our own realities. And Jesus says, that's patently false. Your life is going to follow a certain course, and you cannot change reality and bend it to your own preferences as much as you may want to. It's like a candle that you want to keep from shining. You cannot keep a flame from shining,
right.
A light from shining. You can't change reality to suit your own ends.
Yeah, and I think I like where you're going with the simplicity of it all, too, that Jesus is bringing these grand heavenly truths to earth, presenting them simply. And for some people, that for them is reason to ignore it. If it's simple, I can ignore it. I can move past it. I need to
give me some secret knowledge.
Give me some secret knowledge. Give me something that's complex. I can handle complexity.
Right. And that then is often self-serving, because it helps us feel like we're initiated into the cult of the learned. You know, the few that get to know this knowledge, while the rest of the folks are benighted.
And that's the way we want the world to work.
Right.
And Jesus says that's not the way this works.
Right.
I remember when I was at the University of Texas at Austin. Their colors are burnt orange. I don't know if
Never heard of it.
Yeah, well, it's right up the road.
They've had some success.
I've had nothing to do with that. Let's be
athletic
clear.
endeavors lately.
But I was sitting in a music theory class, a doctoral music theory class, and I remember having this moment of going, this is probably the first time that I've ever felt like you can't fake it. Like the professor was assuming that everyone was on the same level with preceding knowledge, and there was no faking it. That if you didn't know what he was talking about, you were not going to make it. And even my master's degree and other doctoral courses, I still felt like they would kind of bring you along a little bit and kind of help you get there. Like, oh, perhaps you didn't cover this, and that's what I feel like you're talking about. What's what we want to get to that point where we know that secret knowledge, and yet 2,000 years later, we're talking about this candle being hidden under a bushel.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
That in the simplicity, there is something incredible and transcendent about that truth of light shining, and that we can unpack for millennia.
Yeah.
If you light a candle, it's going to shine. If you hurt someone, there will be consequences for that. I mean, and we think we can escape what follows. We can't escape the photons being emitted from the flame. We can't escape the consequences of taking advantage of someone else, or lording it over, or condemning someone.
Yeah, exactly right. Aaron, what question do you have of the text?
Just going back to the weights and measures, just as we stand on the cusp of this new year, we're looking out. Will I look at myself as the Lord looks at me, with grace and mercy, and will I look at others similarly, and are my relationships and my interactions with them be measured with that kind of grace?
Yeah, wonderful. Brian, what about for you? What question do you have?
What do I expect from reality?
Grandfather, it's not gonna. It's just not.
I liked Grandfather Clock on Captain Kangaroo when I was a little kid. What do I expect from reality? I feel like Jesus sometimes says to me, what did you think was going to happen? What did you expect? I want to hear, and I don't want to hear that question coming to me often.
What did you expect?
What did you expect, Brian?
I feel like Jesus says some version of that to his disciples often.
I think so.
What were you expecting?
Exactly.
And we'd love to hear your thoughts on this text as well, if you'd comment below.